Hey guys, Oli here. I want to do a yoga session with you focusing on hips and lower back. We're going to start on our knees. Roll your shoulders back if you'd like. We'll get down into a cozy child's pose and up into tabletop. Go ahead and adjust. Cactus your arms to the sides, bending your elbows, or you could place them beside your body with your hands by your feet. Whatever's most comfortable for you. This flow shouldn't be too intense. I'll add a couple modifications. Overall, this session will be suitable for beginners and expert yogis alike. So start to focus on your breath, breathing deeply. Stretch your arms out to the side at the top corner of your mat. Breathe into your side body, this right side body, deeply. Then go ahead and switch over to the outer right corner of your mat and breathe into your left side body. Good. So we're going back into child's pose. Just stretching out our arms in front of us as far as possible, resting the forehead on the mat, breathing deeply, then rising up on the inhale to tabletop. Spread your knees hip width distance apart, the knees directly under the hips. Stretch up your neck and lift your tailbone for a cow position. Then lower into cat pose with your belly tightened and your hips tucked and your chin lowering to your chest. We'll just flow from cat to cow, with the tailbone leading the way and the neck being the very last thing to tuck. We'll go ahead and add a leg lift with this Kundalini cat-cow movement. Breathing in on the lift and exhaling on the crunch. Make sure to not knee yourself in the face. I've done it many times. Be careful. Go a comfortable speed. And make sure to keep your core tight and keep your back protected. So now we're moving to the other side, breathing in on the lift, exhaling on the crunch. Then on the last lift, just hold it there. Hold your breath. And go ahead and let it all out and exhale. Likewise, we'll hold up the opposite leg. If it's within your practice, go ahead and stretch back your arm and hold the top of your foot for a good thigh stretch and shoulder stretch. Breathe deeply Make sure to breathe into your belly. Go ahead and shake it out. We'll go ahead and do that shoulder stretch and hold on the other side. Make sure to keep both sides even. Just breathe deeply into your belly. You could keep your lowered foot with your toes pointed or bent, whatever is comfortable for you. Shake it out. We'll move into a plank. Make sure to keep your belly tight. Breathe deeply. Keep your arms strong. Lower down into a baby cobra with the chest reaching forward while your feet stretch back. Then push yourself back into downward dog. Pedal out the feet if that feels good for you. You can bend your knees so that your back gets a really good stretch. Nod your head up and down, side to side. Really perfect the posture before going back to plank. And we'll flow through these a couple times, breathing into plank, breathing out to downward dog. Leading with the tailbone. Moving only with your breath at your own pace before lowering down and lifting into an upward facing dog. So we'll add that to our flow, going from downward dog, chaturanga into upward dog, and then back, imagining a string is pulling your tailbone to the sky. And just using your breath to propel you. All right, good. Now just breathe in this downward facing dog and rest for a moment. Keeping the weight in the palms of your hands evenly distributed, pressing into your knuckles, pressing into the balls of your feet and pedaling them out if that feels good. Then we're going to push back into a plank, bringing a knee to the elbow on the same side. And then just using your hips to lift that knee up to the elbow and then down to the wrist. We'll do that a few times. Stretch the leg back and step between the hands for a low lunge. Breathing deeply here. We'll cactus the arms and lower the back knee for a good hip stretch on the left side. Reach forward for a little more pressure. And then straighten the front leg. You don't have to overextend the knee. You can keep a little bend there. And just breathe. So we're stretching the back of the front leg now. And if reaching forward is too intense, you can stay in the first posture. All right, back into plank. Keeping your core tight, tucking your tailbone, lower down into another upward facing dog. Hovering your knees off of your mat, pushing your chest forward, lifting your chin up, and then pushing back into downward dog. Pedaling out your legs. We're just getting these legs as warm as possible. Now we're doing the same thing on the other side. Bring the knee up to the elbow and use your hips to lower down to your wrist and back up to your elbow a couple times. Just warming up these glutes, warming up these legs. Stretching back, stepping between the hands, lifting into a lower lunge on the other side. Breathe deeply here. Keep your core strong. Lower down onto your back knee. Stretching that back leg, hip flexor, and reaching forward, just like we did on the other side. You can cactus the arms if that feels good to you. Straighten the front knee. And reach forward if that's not too intense. You can also just keep your hands down on the floor and adjust as you need to. And breathe deeply. Remember, you don't have to extend your knee all the way. When you're ready, step back into a plank. We'll keep those arms awake, lower into chaturanga, a baby cobra, or if you have the energy, into a full upward dog, and back into downward facing dog, shaking out the neck, shaking the head, pedaling out the legs. Now we're stepping the left foot again to the top of the mat, lowering the hips, putting the palms into prayer for another great hip and leg stretch on the right leg. It's difficult to balance, as you can see. So be careful and don't overextend yourself. It's okay to not fully do these poses. Don't hurt yourself. I switch to the other side here, and you'll notice my heel, unlike the other side, cannot touch the ground. So I'll try to get it on the ground, but it's extremely hard to balance for me. As you can see, my heel comes right back up, but that's okay. Wherever you are is where you're supposed to be. We'll go back to the center, grabbing onto our toes, or you can grab the back of your legs and pull your body forward, bending the knees into a forward fold. This is a very gentle stretch in the back of the hamstrings. Just let your head hang loose, breathe deeply. Straighten and look forward. Straighten the legs in the back, and then bend back down into that forward fold and let your head hang. You can fold your arms and let those hang as well if that's within your practice. It feels really good. Just letting the spine loosen up, rocking back and forth if you can. Keep the weight on the heels. And keep trying to straighten the legs without overextending your knees. We'll walk our hands over to the other side of the mat and end up in another plank, lowering down and pushing up into upward dog and back into our downward dog, pedaling out those legs because it feels so good. Exhaling deeply, then inhaling and lifting up that right leg. Stacking the hips and preparing for our wild thing. You can stay here or go into full wild thing, straightening the left leg and pushing up and stretching out into your wild thing. Lowering down with your hips and back up for an added challenge. Keeping the weight on the left hand palm evenly distributed through the knuckles and the left heel. And then going back to downward dog. Can rotate that hip a bit. Release that tension from your wild thing pose. We'll go ahead and go to the other side. Inhale the left leg up. Stack those hips on top of each other and prepare for wild thing. Wherever you're at, breathing deeply, making sure your weight is evenly distributed. So I'm lowering into my wild thing on the other side, arching up my body, keeping my weight evenly between my right hand and my heels. Just pushing up as much as I can, letting my right leg straighten. And I'm pushing up mostly with my hips, using my glutes. Lowering down the hips for an added challenge. I put my hand in Gya Mudra here. Trying to remind myself to breathe deeper. Sometimes that mudra helps when you do that with your hands, the index finger and thumb together. So breathing deeply, just pushing up the hips. Going back into my downward dog, rotating that left hip to release all that pressure we just built up. Shaking it out. And once again, moving forward into plank. Pushing up to upward dog and then back to downward dog again. Go ahead and breathe deeply here before lowering back into a child's pose. Just let out a big exhale. We've built up a lot of heat. You could keep your knees further apart on the outer edges of your mat if that feels good to you. Give your hips a deeper stretch. Really reach forward with the arms. Push back the hips as far as they can go. Just let everything release. And follow your breath all the way down to your belly. On the next inhale, lift your body up and start moving your torso into a figure 8 infinity symbol in both directions. It feels so good on the hips and the shoulders. All right. Tuck your toes and walk yourself up to a forward fold, lifting vertebra by vertebra up to standing. On your inhale, raise your arms, and exhale, diving down into another forward fold. And then halfway lift, back to a forward fold. Holding both elbows and letting your torso sway back and forth, letting your head hang, putting your palms on the mat and bending your right leg, reaching the left arm up to the sky for a good IT band stretch on the left leg. Twisting your torso to your left as much as possible. And then we'll do it on the other side. Bend the left knee and reach the right arm up to the sky. Rotating the torso to the right, looking up towards the right palm, stretching that right IT band. Pressing down into the left palm to give yourself some added support. Keeping that right leg strong and straight for a good stretch. And breathing deeply. Okay, lower your palm, halfway lift, and quickly fold before lifting your chest up and reaching your arms into Utkatasana, chair pose, keeping the hips as low as you can with the legs as close together as possible. We'll do that again, down in a forward fold. And this time, when you go into Utkatasana, cactus the hands, cactus the arms, or if it's more comfy, put it into prayer pose. Then we'll stand up. Stand in the center of our mat and lift the left heel to our hip and lower the torso as low as possible, placing the hands on the floor for stability and breathing deeply to counter that chair pose. Release some tension from our thighs. For more balance challenge, fold the arms and let the torso hang, keeping that right foot anchored into the ground. As you can see, it's very difficult. It's okay. If it's hard, some days are easier than others, and some sides are stronger than others. So we're going to switch to the other leg, anchoring with that left foot, lifting the right heel up to the hips, getting it in that nook between the thigh and the hips, lowering the torso down as much as possible. You can put your hands on the ground, or if you're balancing, try prayer pose. Or like last time, you can cross your arms. Just let your torso hang. Just make sure to keep that left leg strong. You're going to feel really good stretch on the back of your hamstrings here, especially in the pigeoned right leg and glute. Adjust as much as you need to. Most of all, just have fun. Lift your arms up and lower into Utkatasana again. This time, we're going to twist the torso, anchoring our right elbow onto the left knee, looking up towards the sky, pressing our palms together. You can stretch your arms out or add a bind with your left hand tucking between your thigh and torso along your back. Go back to center, Utkatasana, and twist to the other side, pressing into those palms, pressing that left elbow into the right knee, then extending your arms. You can try the bind with the upper arm along the back, tucking the fingers between the torso and outer thigh for an added twist. And then come out of the posture into standing and shake it out. Reaching up towards the sky. Then lowering your palms down and hopping back into plank for chaturanga, upward facing dog. Pushing back into our favorite position, downward facing dog. Go ahead, just let the head hang. Don't put any pressure on the neck here. Just look up and hop or step your feet between your hands. Lift up and look up. And lower back down all the way to your mats. You can rest here for a few breaths. Keep your knees close together with your feet apart for a nice hip decompression. Keep your arms at your side. Breathe into your belly. And just relax, let it all go here. We're only resting for a moment, preparing for a little bit of an ab workout. When you're ready, put your hands under your hips for support and extend both of your legs. Lifting your heels off the mat and looking towards your toes. Using your belly here. Keeping your tailbone tucked to keep your lower back safe. Using those hands under your hips for support. So many muscles are being activated here. Breathe deeply. Long, slow breaths. If it's too much, you can try alternating your legs, just doing one leg at a time and lowering the other leg on the ground. You can also keep your head lowered and only lift your legs if that's easier for you. Now, bend your knees, bring your heels to your fingertips, and lower your head. Lift the hips up for a little back bend here. Pressing up, using the strength of your thighs. You can lift your leg for an added challenge. Lower your hips down, lift your hips up. Keeping your arms and shoulders pressing towards the ground and your neck straight. Keeping most of the weight on your heels and your shoulders, pressing up with your back and your hips. Now the other side. Lifting the leg firmly towards the sky, while carefully, with control, lowering the hips to the ground. And doing as many reps as you can. With a deep breath, go ahead and lower down. You can wave your knees side to side, wave your neck side to side, shake out those hands, shake out those feet. And we'll go ahead and do a sort of reverse pigeon, resting the right foot on the left knee, hugging the knee to the chest, giving the right hip a good stretch. Swing if that's cozy for you. Breathing deeply, letting out all the heat we've generated. And if it feels good, stretch out your arms and lower your legs to your left. Keep your right shoulder on the floor. Just get a nice deep spine twist. Now we'll switch to the other side. Right foot on top of left knee. You can rotate the ankles if that feels good. Been doing a lot of leg work. Just pull that left thigh towards your chest. Breathe deeply. And when you're ready, stretch out your arms. And lower the legs to your right. Drop the head to the left for a nice, deep spine twist. Just let go. Let all your muscles release. Breathe out all that heat we've generated. And go back to center. We'll shake everything out. And then hug our knees into our chest. Rocking back and forth, shaking out the head. Neutralizing the spine. And then rest in our final resting pose, corpse pose, shavasana. Just let go of any tension. Scan your body. Let your breath move freely. Let your mind wander. Stay here as long as you'd like. When you're ready, rotate your wrists and ankles. Hug your knees to your chest. Roll over to one side. Press yourself back up to your seated position. Just take a couple deep breaths and thank yourself for practicing today, for giving yourself this time. Bring your hands into prayer and bow towards your heart. And give yourself some love and light, and then send it out into the world. Carry it with you through your day. Thanks for joining me. Namaste. If you've enjoyed this content and like the background music, please check out the rest of my music on Spotify under Oli, and follow me everywhere at olysounds. Be sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe, send me any questions or comments. I'd love to hear from you.